Mike Coppinger, sources. Jessie Vargas and Liam Smith have agreed terms for a DAXN main event on January the 22nd or January the 29th in Las Vegas. Vargas moving up to 154 for the battle between former champions. Story coming to ESPN. Somebody's replied to that. Doesn't Jessie have a campaign he's got to worry about? Yeah, I heard that he was getting into politics or something. Probably realised it isn't a good idea. There's even more scumbags in politics than the scumbags who practice politics in boxing. Besides, that DAXN money's nice, isn't it, Jessie? I like the fight. I like it. I hope it's in the UK. Emmanuel Navarrette, from Mike Coppinger, sources, that he is now a promotional free agent. He was under contract with Zanfer, who co-promoted him with Top Rank for the past few years. Bob Arum is claiming he'll fight Oscar Valdez next. But there will be offers from Matchroom, PBC. Speaking of promotional free agents, here's what Bob Arum had to say on Terence Crawford. Here's a little clip I took from a video earlier.
Bob, with Terence, when will talks begin to look to renew his contract?
Look, people have asked me that, but I go back to the 80s and the early 90s. We didn't have long-term contract. We did fight by fight, and I think Terence would be happier with a fight-by-fight kind of deal. I think Terence feels that a long-term contract might constrain him, which it does to some extent because he's tied up to one promoter. So I'm happy to deal with Terence on a fight-by-fight basis, always taking the chance that if somebody comes along with a really good deal that's much better than what we're offering.
It got me thinking how the long-term contract thing with promoters, it's really ruined boxing. It's really led to the in-house fights era, the this side of the street era, if you like. The era Bobby's talking about is with Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard, when he turned pro, he didn't want to get ganked by a Don King type of promoter. Not that he didn't work with Don King, but they was clever. He didn't sign with a promoter. His trainer, Janks Morton, spoke to an attorney he knew, Mike Trainer. So when he was on the come-up, he kept a way bigger percentage of his money than other fighters because they weren't tied to a promoter. They done their own cards and hired promoters for the event. That's what they did. Then when they got to championship level, it was all on a fight-by-fight basis. You know, when he fought Duran, Bob Arum and Don King were involved because Don King promoted Duran. Bob Arum worked with Marvin Hagler for years on a fight-by-fight basis. Tommy Hearn, same thing, fight-by-fight. Now, unless you've been making millions in your last few purses, signing a long-term contract for a young prospect may be his only option if he's going to make a go of it as a professional, unless he can get sponsors. See, when you talk about the four guys in the 80s, Hagler, Duran, Leonard, Hearns, we talk about how, and let's include Benitez too, how they fought each other, and in the process of that, they all became great. Well, what were the promoters going to do? You haven't laid out a whole load of money to secure the boxer's services, so they don't have to protect their investment by putting them in shit in-house fights. You make the biggest fight out there, and if a Ray Leonard loses, it's no big deal to the promoter, because whoever's beat Ray, are they going to turn down a rematch with Sugar Ray Leonard? No, of course they're not. You don't even have to make a rematch clause. You know, in the early to mid to late 80s, Don King more or less had a UFC type grip on the heavyweight division. He owned all the key fighters, basically the whole top 10 at a lot of stages in the 80s. Like the Duvers, they got the whole, well, not the whole, but they got Whitaker, Biggs, Holyfield, Meldrick Taylor, Mark Breland, all from the 84 Olympics, and they were all Duver fighters. So these are, I guess, the roots of modern day American boxing, where the promoters are building stables. I don't remember politics like that really stopping many fights happening though. Not like today. You got MTK Global, they got 300 boxers. That's a whole load of boxers. The PBC, in 2018, they had about 160. They have way more than that now, I'm assuming. Matchroom, they have way over 100, I'm assuming. So, you know, The likes of Eddie Hearn will have an annual budget from DAZN to put on cards. DAZN and Eddie have to try and protect their interests. The fighters they signed up are paid for. They're signing on fees, signing on bonuses. If they're underperforming or they lose, then you're stuck with a fighter who can't recoup either pay-per-view buys or app subscriptions or sell tickets at the arena. Whereas if you're a free agent, well, Eddie or DAZN haven't invested anything like time or money into the fighter. We'll take this fight with the fighter being a free agent. If it does well, then we can go again and perhaps look at a longer term contract if it's going well. Nobody wants to do what the PBC were not forced into, but they took the gamble and Caleb couldn't deliver, and now they're out $50 million. They're out $50 million. And now the PBC are asking people to pay for Luis Ortiz and Charles Martin cards now on pay-per-view because they need to recoup money. They've got guys like Wilder there. He lost to Tyson Fury. He's top rank. He's not PBC. It's going to take Wilder a little while now to get back in the Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury tax bracket. It's going to take him a little while. Crawford can basically do business with Al Heyman now. It's almost, I wouldn't say a 50-50 joint partnership, but it's a partnership of sorts if he goes in as a free agent. You take on Errol Spence if he beats Porter. You help promote the fight with Spence. And he should be rewarded on the back end of the pay-per-view money without a promoter cutting into his bottom line. But that still takes acumen. You need a team around you to deal with a PBC. You can't just go into the PBC and expect them to give you it all handing on a plate. Nah, you have to go in there with competent people who know what they're doing. It's not easy, but what is? But look, forget all that. We don't benefit from all what I'm saying there. As a consumer, you want the boxer to have the freedom to take the fights that will develop his legacy without no constraints of in-house politics. That's all it is, and that's where Terence needs to be. That's where he needs to be. That's where Devin Haney is trying to be. And I'm assuming Emmanuel Navarrete, that's where they're trying to be. And hopefully that's a trend that will start working itself out for the better of boxing. You'd have to say Canelo was the template for most boxers. What was that he got? 40 million from the PBC? Al didn't even have the guarantee of having him on the PBC for one more fight. I mean, in all truth, even if he was signed with Golden Boy or DAZN, it wouldn't be too hard to deal with Don King right now, because King is not the same player he was back in the day. But Eddie and Canelo, they're going to be talking with Don King because he promotes Makabu. Makabu signed with him recently. If he had known, Canelo was going to call him out, there'd be no need for him to sign with Don King at all. None at all. He could do that deal independently as a free agent. But now King's got a piece of it. Say it, guy. Canelo, he got rid of his other promoter, Golden Boy, because they were trying to commit him to fights that he didn't agree to with Golovkin. And there was a breach of contract between Canelo, Golden Boy, and DAZN. During the COVID, DAZN didn't want to pay up the contractual amount he was entitled to. So that was the breach. So right now, he's the template and he's beating the promoter, but let's not be fooled. It won't be as fruitful for the vast majority of fighters out there going up against these big promoters. When you think about it, Eddie Hearn works for Canelo Promotions because Canelo ain't no matchroom fighter. I'm not being funny, like at the PBC. I'm not saying shit is really bad. I don't know Al Heyman's business like that, but something has happened that he's making Luis Ortiz and Charles Martin, the pay-per-view, like they need to get bread back. They need to get money back, so they're just pushing fights out there and trying to pass them off as pay-per-views now. They got so many fighters, and so much of them are on the sideline. A lot of them are inactive and they want to fight. Gary Russell claims he's inactive and he wants to fight. Adrian Broner claims he's inactive and he wants to fight. He was asking for a fight. Can't get a fight. See, things change or evolve over time. You don't see Frank Warren trying to put fighters in the court anymore because people are going to see that. It's going to be online. It's going to be exposed. There's more boxing media bringing attention to topics, and boxers are going to see that, and they're just not going to sign with Frank. They're going to say, well, look how you got that boxer hemmed up there. I don't like that. I'm not signing with you. So he stopped doing that now, right? Years ago, When Pat Barrett tried to get out of the rematch with Anthony Yard, Frank would have had him up in court. He didn't do that this time. He didn't do this. He worked it out somehow, but he didn't do that. He went to the British Boxing Board of Control and said, yo, I've got them under contract. Frank didn't used to go to no British Boxing Board of Control. He didn't used to give a fuck about them. No, it's straight in, lawsuit. And it's kind of like Bob Arum doesn't want to get in a situation like he was in with Mikey Garcia. He doesn't want to get in them situations because people won't sign. All that taking people to court and stopping boxers from earning and getting on with their careers. The promoters ain't stupid. They know they ain't going to come off looking like the good guys. Most people are going to sympathize with the boxer. So hopefully we're going to start seeing promoters taking a more relaxed attitude of trying to control big blocks of fighters and telling them when they can fight and who they can't because of networks and shit like that. We're probably going to see that because it's going to start affecting their pockets. C. During the term of this agreement, athlete agrees to render services solely and exclusively for advisor and agrees that he will not take part or negotiate for any professional boxing contest whatsoever without first obtaining the written approval of advisor. Kind of throws a spanner with talking points about the PBC fighters being free agents. We'll discuss it though. This is a PBC boxing contract. They say they're free agents. The PBC fighters like to scream that they're free agents and bosses. Well, why are so much of them sitting on the sidelines not fighting? Look at Broner. He used to say that he's a boss. And then just the other month, he was complaining that Al wouldn't get him a fight. Well, you're a boss. Get your own fight. And then apparently Al wouldn't give him his own money that he earned from the ring. You getting an allowance from Al? Listen to Errol Spence. He doesn't need a promoter, doesn't want one. Yet he has formed his own promotional company which hasn't produced no fighters, and this is a few years back. Where are the fighters in this so-called promotional company? Why didn't Spence and his promotional company make a counter offer to Bob Arum so he could afford Terence Crawford? See, there's Crawford. Stop using the effing promoters, managers, and advisors for that weak-ass excuse. If you really want to fight, you tell them, I don't give two Fs. That's who I want to fight. That's who I want to fight. Let your nuts drop. You say you're your own boss. Remember Charlo and all that, I'm my own boss, telling Eddie Hearn, send the contract. Eddie sends the contract. Then, he even said he didn't get the contract, or Tim Brown said he sent it through Instagram, it's not a real offer. Well, how did Andy Ruiz get his fight? It's perfectly legit to send legit contracts through Instagram or whatever means. It's a load of rubbish. And then when he got the contract, after saying he's a boss and all this boss shit, here he is quoted saying, I don't pick the fights. So someone else picks your fights, Al Heyman. I'm not into the management group. Then you're not a boss. If you don't manage anything, you're not a boss. It's all talk. It must be going on 3-4 years now that Jamal's been saying he's a boss. But yet, where was he? The other week. He was throwing handbags with Jarrett Hurd at the Canelo and Plant fight, saying he wants to fight Canelo, asking for a fight. The boss. People are talking about Charlo and Benavidez. And, it's normally the PBC fan base. I hope they realise that these fights don't necessarily happen on Fox or Showtime. Canelo's in charge of where these fights go. You might think you're entitled to say, Canelo should be fighting this guy and you're not happy with his resume. That's fair enough. But you can't tell Canelo where he fights. Whether you think he's achieving greatness in the ring or not, he's unequivocally the cash cow of the sport. He's the boss. To me, it seems that the fighters who actually have promoters have more freedom than the PBC fighters. When Teofimo didn't like Bob's offer for the Cambosos fight, at least he had the option to let it go to a purse bid. Do the PBC fighters even get that under the contracts that they're signing with Al Heyman? How are these Benavidez and Charlo fights with Canelo going to work? Are they going to sign with DAXN? Will Al allow that? Let's see real free agents making free agent moves. Not just playing lip service to being some big boss because it makes them sound like some alpha male. Forget all that. It's either real or it's not real. I'm free to do what I want. Mike Coppinger, sources. Liam Williams has suffered an injury and is out of the scheduled middleweight fight against Chris Eubank Jr. on December the 11th in Cardiff, Wales. The fight, according to Mike Coppinger, was Sky Sports' best matchup by far since Matchroom parted ways with the network over the summer. Well, it probably was the biggest fight so far. They were going to put it on pay-per-view, which was a little ambitious, in all honesty. The last time Eubank tried pay-per-view was that with James DeGale. It flopped. That was on ITV. Liam Williams, he's not a draw over here. Although he could be injured. He could be injured in saying that. I was thinking he's just coming off the loss to Andrade, and he was washed on the scorecards. He took some heavy punishment too. Was this the ideal fight for him to come back? And I asked that a few weeks back on one of the weeklies. Rob Tebbit, he's a little suspicious. Mike Coppin just tweeted that it's off, but there's no word from the promoters or the fighters as of now. Very strange. Is it a false flag? What's going on here? Quote your source, Mike. Quote your source. Molly May Haig, Tommy Fury's fiance, is saying she hasn't slept in the same bed as Tommy for a little while, as the training camp is in Morecambe, an hour-and-a-half drive from Manchester where they live. And she visited him because she missed him. Okay, well, he's training for a fight. I don't know, maybe it's just too much time to make the commute between camp and home, and he's just focused in on Jake Paul. Is this really a news story? Styles make fights. Jason Quigley matches up well with me, insists Demetrius Andrade. The style that he's planning for this fight is going to surprise people. This is the night that he will surprise everyone, including Jason Quigley. So Quigley is considerably taller. Is Boo Boo planning a more aggressive approach? Come forward, get inside Quigley's long arms and break him up? Is he any good at doing that? It's not too far away now. Could this actually be the Demetrius Andrade fight, what catches the public's attention for excitement? I want to see Dempsey McKean on this Andrade bill tonight. He signed with Matchroom, Australian heavyweight. I want to see what he's like. I don't even know who he's fighting. I don't assume it's going to be some big test. I just want to have a little observation of what his basics are, what his strengths and weaknesses are. Just seen the fights. Let's go to the post-fight breakdown. Jason Quigley? Sorry, bro. You know, I have a couple of jokes at your expense, but, you know. All right, I've seen the fights. Let's go post-fight. Quigley, you look more like Wrigley's in there the way you got chewed up by Andrade. Basically, Andrade set it up by throwing that long left to the body and then coming up with that right to the head. And Quigley was just too upright and too tall, and he got caught cold, didn't he? And that's what Andrade was attempting to do, and he's good at catching fighters cold, actually. He's pretty dangerous for that matter. If he can start capitalizing on his gifts, he's one of the fastest starters out there. He could actually catch anyone and put them out early. Now, let's keep in mind, nobody thought Jason Quigley was going to win. For Quigley, it couldn't have went any worse, could it? It couldn't have went any worse. The commentary team, they said, look how dry Quigley was, so like I say, he got caught cold, didn't he? Andrade said that he was going to surprise us, like I said earlier. I said in the prediction video, if he tries to counterpunch Andrade, he's going to get picked off, and he needed to get a quick start, man. He needed to gamble a little. I've seen him box a few times. I knew he couldn't outbox Andrade, even though he was the taller guy. And as for walking him down, I wasn't too sure about that. He needed to just come out and throw punches and see if he could land something. But it's a strange combination, a hybrid combination from the southpaw stance from Andrade. A left from the backhand. He leads with the left to the backhand to the body, and then a right hand over the top. It's hard for anyone to cope with, and he threw that combination a couple of times and then followed up. And the right hand put Quigley down near by the ropes. Andrade always keeps his head from off-center, and it actually advantaged him fighting somebody taller, it seemed to me, because he can actually fight low. And Quigley just couldn't see the punches. He couldn't see the punches. He scored another knockdown in the first round, which the referee seemed to be saying that Andrade pulled him down. No, it was a knockdown. Quigley's cornerman slapped him a couple of times and grabbed him and tried to shake him up. Quigley pushed his hands off like saying, no, I'm all right. He's in control. But he was just an inept challenger. Totally inept. The first punch that put him in trouble, a right hand over the top, that was set up from them body punches from the backhand was a very good punch. Very crafty, sneaky punch. Andrade started the second round. He led with that left again. And Quigley was just so out of his depth. He went down again. Was it another knockdown or a slip? Probably a knockdown. Andrade went downstairs again from that backhand. I mean, against someone who's a bit more prepared for that and better schooled, it could be dangerous. Throwing that left hand from the back from so far and so wide at times. Quigley mounted a little bit of a comeback, trying to get his 1-2 off. Andrade kept prodding for the openings, throwing the lead right to the body, the left to the body, stabbing Quigley, and then he let go with another big left hook and Quigley was down again. Very good punch. Lead left hook. Threw it from out of a crouch. Quigley got up quickly, but Andrade wasn't in no mood to hang about here. This time he was going to finish the fight. And a combination of left and rights put Quigley down. He was in serious trouble and it was just too one-sided. The referee brought a halt to the proceedings. And, you know, he was very animated after talking about why you guys asking for Munguia versus Triple G next. The obvious fight should be Munguia either calling out Andrade or the winner of Triple G Murata. You guys should be asking for that. You should be asking for the winner of that fight to come take on Andrade. And he's correct. He's definitely correct. How long can 160 ignore him? And let's not forget Jamal Charlo's out there with that WBC strap. The Eastern European fan club, they're screaming for Andrade to fight Janibek. He's ducking Janibek, the second coming. You know, they were screaming for him to fight Liam Williams, but they forget that now. He'll get his shot if it's due. I'm sure he'll get his shot. Janibek. You know, 10-0 Janibek with 6 stoppages. Career achievement is stopping Rob Brandt. That's who Andrade is ducking. But you could feel Andrade's frustration with Eddie Hearn, that Eddie can't get him these major fights against the likes of Triple G and Canelo and Munguia. If Andrade parts ways with Eddie and becomes a success without Eddie, it's going to be a major blow to his portfolio in the USA. That's all I have to say. I don't know what Eddie can do though. He can't force Munguia, he can't force Triple G in the ring, can he? Dempsey McKean, a southpaw, 6'6", heavyweight from Australia. Looked like he had quick hands. He's got a stoppage victory over Jonathan Rice. It's not a bad win. He's 20-0 with 13 stoppages. He took on Don Hainsworth and stopped him in the 6th round. Now, Don was a little out of shape. He's 16-7-1 going into the bout. You know, Dempsey made a few errors here and there. Not that he was getting lit up or anything. He barely got hit. But he's 31. I didn't realise he was that old. At times he would jump out of range. And there was no need, really, because he dominated from the ring centre behind a jab. Because it's not like Hainsworth was going to walk him down with any type of foot speed. That wasn't going to happen. Hainsworth was out of shape, not being disrespectful. He was slow, his shots were telegraphed, and Dempsey, his range control, it could improve a little, because sometimes he stifled his own work. A lot of people weren't impressed, but, you know, I need to see more. It doesn't seem too bad. It doesn't seem too bad to me. But at 31, he needs a lot of work. I didn't realise he was that old. But Matchroom have signed him up. There's a market out there in Australia. There's a market out there where he could have some big fights. The international stage, he needs a lot of work from what I'm seeing. He said he wants some big fights. Well, if he can get them, why not? If they're going to pay whoever the right type of money to go to Australia to fight Dempsey McKean, they should go. They should go. The very unconventional Julio Cesar Martinez and Matt Williams Arroyo traded knockdowns in a 2-round no contest. Martinez, his footwork is all over the place and it looks like he doesn't know what he's doing when he's throwing his shots, but when he lands, you've got issues. Arroyo got off to a great start. He hurt Martinez with a left hook, followed up, and it was touch and go whether it was a knockdown. The referee scored it a knockdown, but yeah, it was a knockdown. Then he himself, Arroyo, got too confident trying to finish it and got caught by that powerful Martinez left hook. Great round. Arroyo was on the deck again in the second, and the cut was deemed to be an accidental headbutt that he suffered. And the fight was called off before round 3, and we was denied a Friday night / Saturday morning slugfest. Like I said, this was going to be a firefight, and it was a very exciting fight. Maybe not the most technical fight, but you need these fights in the game. You do. It's a shame. Maybe they could have a rematch. Crawford 146.4, Sean 146.6. Crawford looked like a weapon. Sean was in shape, looked muscular, but Crawford, can't wait for this one. Now, I don't know if Billy's going to continue following me on Twitter, but honesty is my thing. Like, Michael Benson, he quoted that Dillian said he'll finish Tyson Fury. Deontay Wilder is overrated. That is true. He can punch, but he can't fight. He can fight a little, to be honest. Not totally true. He said he knocked Fury down twice. Heavy knockdowns, and Fury came back and won rounds. If I put Fury down, I'll be attacking him head and body. That is true. Billy Nelson, Martin Bakole's manager, said your concern is tucking your fragile chin away from oncoming punches. Bit unfair, Billy. He was dominating the fight and got caught with the left uppercut. And he won the rematch easy. So I replied, because, I've supported Billy on Twitter when people have said Martin shouldn't get opportunities, but now Billy is bashing another Brit looking to get an opportunity at a world title that he's earned. So I wasn't feeling that. So I said, let's be honest, Billy, when Martin starts fighting Povetkin level fighters, he'll get knocked out too. Now, I probably should have said he might get knocked out, rather than he'll get knocked out. What happened to the Yoka fight? Yoka's fighting Takam now. Billy replied, Martin agreed, purse date, venue, and Yoka ran. Is that true? It could be. So I said, what about Hrgovic? Now, he did reply and say, if the deal is fair, he would fight Hrgovic. The thing is, though, Billy, Martin's name was in the hat. An eliminator against Hrgovic would take him directly into a world title shot with Anthony Joshua. But Martin and Billy, they declined the fight, saying the offer wasn't fair. But then again, Martin is not a big draw. How much did he get for knocking over that guy in Saudi Arabia? His only fight this year. Nobody saw that fight. Who saw that fight? It lasted a couple of seconds. The opponent was woeful. What are the other options? What, you want millions to fight Hrgovic? The fight's not worth millions. You've got to sacrifice something. I mean, it says 28 years of age on BoxRec, but a lot of people suspect that Martin is older than that. Time is ticking. Dillian declined at Eliminator 2 against Pulev a couple of years back. Fair enough, but he's earned his shot at Tyson Fury. He's earned this shot. People can keep going back to that, but he's earned his shot. And I support him in his effort to try and get Tyson Fury or anyone else who's got that WBC belt in the ring so he gets a shot at being a world champion.